A monster trade in the NBA. We got to talk about it. We'll find the local angles. We'll also give our overall takes on it. Plus, a couple games over the weekend. They lose to the Nuggets barely at the end. A little bit different story against the Clippers, even though it still ended up in a loss. We'll get to all of it today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. There's Doug Branson smiling. He's got a lot to talk about on Locked On NBA as well. You can find his Hornets takes on everyhornetsboxscore.com. He'll be hosting Locked On NBA later today as well with Hayes and Matt Moore. I'm Walker Mayo. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Got a couple things to take care of real quickly. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time?
Game Time.
Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Plus, another thing Doug is in charge of, it is the new, we are still calling it the new Locked On Hornets newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free right now. LockedOnDaily.com, LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Hornets newsletter. Oh my God, there are some trades where you remember where you were, right? This is one of those. Everybody goes to it. I remember being at a bar drinking beer saying, hold the phone, people. We have a monster trade in the NBA. And it was Luka Doncic.
You said hold the phone? Mm-hmm. You looked around and said, everyone, hold your phones.
I did. I said, everybody hold the phone, and then everybody stopped, and then they took out their phone, they held it, and then they started looking at the Luka trade, and then they were saying all sorts of old euphemisms as well. Let's go with the Luka Doncic trade here first. Yes, yeah. I was saying all of the stuff, okay? Luka got traded. He got traded to the Lakers. He's going to the Lakers in an exchange. It's basically for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. So Max Christie and a 2029 first. That's going back to Dallas. Utah got involved. They just got free stuff, free ancillary stuff. But Luka's going to L.A. to play with LeBron, and then hopefully for Lakers fans, I would say, play there for the next decade. I was trying to think of some of the more surprising moves in my NBA lifetime, Doug. So the only thing that I came up with when Paul George was attached to the Kawhi Leonard deal and he goes to LA, I thought that was really surprising, where you knew Kawhi was going to go to LA. It was Toronto or one of the LA teams, but you didn't know that Paul George was going to go to LA with him. That was a shocker. That had not been reported. He leaves one star to go to another star. That one was pretty surprising. It's still, I think it is not in the same level of Luka going to the Lakers here. And then I started trying to think of, okay, what's the most surprising move in Hornets history? I know you have some thoughts on that, but just how were you trying to make sense of your thoughts as you saw this trade?
Let me just give everyone a warning. I've got some folks working on the roof today, so if you hear loud banging noise, I'm trying to ride my mic here, but if you hear loud banging noises, it's not me watching Mark Williams try to take floaters against Nikola Jokic and miss them terribly. I'm not banging the table in anger at that.
No,
it's people.
Already? Oh,
what?
God.
What?
Oh, no. Just go. Just go.
All right, so in terms of surprising trades, I will never, ever forget where I was when the Hornets acquired Brad Wanamaker for cash consideration.
Dude, right in the heart, like a steak, man. I mean, you're talking about cash considerations doing a lot for us.
But in all seriousness, I think the most surprising move in Hornets history was trading LJ. I think people had time to see the Alonzo Mourning leaving for the Heat. That meteor took a while to hit, and people were dealing with that at the time. But the LJ thing wasn't a shock. I think people could still see some writing on the wall when they decided, when the extension happened and it was so huge and the back trouble, people kind of got some hints. But I've gone back and looked at people's response in the Charlotte Observer to the move, and a lot of people were like, wait a minute, you traded LJ for what? for Anthony Mason. Like, no one understood the trade. No, everyone thought the Hornets were getting ready to go into, no one called it tank mode, but everyone thought like, oh, I get it. The Hornets are just tearing everything down. They're going to get bad and then try to come up again. No one knew that, Bob was working his ass off and had done the research and saw that Anthony Mason was on the come up, and they built a team out of that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that certainly I think was the most move of all time.
Yeah, the gut check moves and the ones that really gutted Hornets fans. I think Kemba Walker moving on. Yeah. There was a debate about that, though. That was actually one of my first big debates on this podcast. That was like a season long. It's what do you do at the end of this thing, especially if Kemba gets all NBA. He does. So now you understand that he's eligible for all of the money. Hornets come, I think, with what is like an appropriate market offer for Kemba, but it felt to Kemba like a slap in the face because he was eligible for so much more. And then eventually he decides, okay, if it's just for, what was it, like $3-5 million more a year than what anybody else could offer him, he just goes to Boston. But Kemba leaving, he was in, essence, our Luka. I'm not trying to compare the two, but you get the idea. Oh, Kemba leaving was a big deal. I know. Kemba leaving was a big deal. And Al Jefferson kind of aged out. So that there was no dramatic ending to the Big Al era. He just aged out. Then he signed with the Pacers. That was fine. You're looking at other heroes. LJ gets traded. All your heroes of the first Hornets franchise got traded, every single one. So yeah, it's wild to see something like this. But Kemba, I think LJ's a great one because that one was tough. Grandmama, the cultural impact, all of that stuff. To watch him go to a big market too, like, oh great, now the Knicks get one of our things. Like this is what we were doing, and now it's awesome, and you want a part of it. So that's a great one. The local angle currently, Doug, it's okay, perhaps. Despite everybody wanting LaMelo to go to the Lakers, doesn't look like that's going to happen anymore now that they have their young point guard, heavy usage player. I mean, maybe, who knows? But
take that, LaMelo stands. I know you're watching this YouTube video right now. I know you're just biting at chomping at the bit. You're chomping at the bit to get on your keyboard and type something into the comments. Well, take that. He's not going to LA, at least not the Lakers.
At least not the Lakers, right? Like unless they're not going to trade LeBron for him. So, and LaMelo and Luka. That's the other thing is the LaMelo Laker stuff. At least now that looks like we can put that to bed for a little while. But if Luka can get it traded, man, I mean, holy hell. And I know you were workshopping this during the weekend, but I mean, it's wild. I know it's wild to see a star get on the move, though.
Oh, it always is. And even if you go back to the Kemba thing, it wasn't shocking to people who paid close attention to the team and the dynamics and the money that was involved and the knee injuries that were involved with Kemba Walker and all of the danger of signing him to big money. But to casual fans, to people that just kind of followed the Hornets, every once in a while, that still was a shock. Whenever a team moves on from a guy who's going to be that far up in the rankings in terms of, scoring and games played and all that, it's still a shock. But it wasn't the same level of, because the Hornets had not achieved anything with Kemba of real significance. You're not going to have folks like in Dallas who are out in front of the arena protesting this move and the kind of devastation that Nico Harrison has wrought on his own franchise by moving on from Luka. But it always is a shock. Here are the local angles that I can see on both this Luka deal and the De'Aaron Fox deal that happened. Fox going to San Antonio, Levine going to Sacramento, and Chicago getting into rebuild mode. So first with the Luka deal, that 2027 Mavs first round pick that the Hornets have as a result of the last trade deadline, that's looking juicier by the day, because if Nico Harrison doesn't have this right, then it can go very wrong very quickly for the Mavericks. It's top 2 protected, so it can't go like ultimate wrong with a top 2 pick, but it could go kind of wrong with a 3 to 7 pick. So that would be one thing. I think my overall thing, though, even though we talk about LaMelo not going to the Lakers, I think this trade really shows that very few players in the NBA are truly safe. I mean, if Luka can get traded, then really anyone can get traded. All it takes are some irrational actors, and I don't know that Jeff, I don't know that I would qualify Jeff Peterson as that. But honestly, like, I don't know, because Jeff Peterson has not. He's done a little bit around the edges, but we haven't seen him make that big push. When is he going to make that big push, and what does that look like? This was Nico Harrison doing that. That's what it looked like for Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks. What's it going to look like from Charlotte? I think we have to open our minds, expand our beliefs, and not say, well, there's no way that LaMelo could be moved. There's no way that they could deal Brandon Miller, right? Wrong. No one's safe.
Well, yeah, and for me, last thing before we move on too, it's okay. Despite Nico Harrison has done a lot of good things for that Dallas team. This is the man that was in charge of a squad that found their way into the NBA Finals last year. Having Luka really helps, but they needed to win elsewhere. So they go and they get a PJ and they reimagine him as this defensive stopper, this emotional leader, this OKC Thunder killer. They go get Daniel Gafford. They need some beef. They need some anger down low to complement Derek Lively and what he does well as a starting five. So you get Gafford, 2 moves that help you get to the NBA Finals. So it is easy to point to Nico and say, my God, what an idiot. Are you kidding me? There are other moves to suggest that he's actually quite good at this. Yet, it's really hard to make sense of this. Even with all the conditioning issues, I'm sure Luka was not easy to deal with as reported, and I'm sure there's stuff that hadn't been reported that we just don't know about. That would make sense as to why Luka was traded as well. What I am interested in, though, and applying that to other teams, including the Charlotte Hornets, can GMs get so frustrated with these tumultuous stars where they just get out in front of something, even if nothing is manifested to the distance that they're telling you they're going to leave? Because by all indications, Luka had not told Dallas that he was wanting out, that he was not going to sign this Supermax. So just because you feel so comfortable with who that person is as a player and as a person, right? Do you just move on from him to get out in front of it and then go and collect Anthony Davis? The not calling other teams thing, that's very weird. I know you wanted to do this quiet, but that still doesn't seem like you got as much value as you possibly could have. But if you bring this home to the Hornets and you bring it to their star player with LaMelo has never had any conditioning issues. Zero, right? LaMelo is always ready to go. Effort-wise, there's never been any question about LaMelo's effort. Defensively, maybe the problem's there, but in terms of just giving up, no, there's never been any questions, nor should there have been. But with the injury stuff, right? Is there just a time where Jeff or whoever decides, I can't do this anymore. I know he wants to stay here, but I'm going to get out in front of this. I think that's the way, if it would happen, that's the way that it would happen. So
all right, I've got 2 more takes on this that we can do on the other side, and then we can get to the recaps.
All right, let's do it. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
He's everywhere!
Doug has LaMelo takes. Doug has really trade takes to find the local angle, and apparently he's got Mark takes that he couldn't.
I got Mark takes, man.
That's still to come here on LOH. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time? Game Time? Yeah, he's not listening. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings anymore. You can go to Game Time Picks for a while, and here's why you're going to love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. You can grab a super deal for a prime seat, and it would be a steal in value with these super deals that they have. Plus, the seat view feature, it's a game changer. Before you even hit buy, you can see exactly what your seat will look like in the venue. It's so reassuring. The best part, too, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Ridiculous. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. More Locked On Hornets ahead. All right, Doug, what are your final local angle takes?
Well, I'm looking at this 2027 mock draft, and there is a lot of NBA pedigree in this draft. Jackson Richardson is Jason Richardson's younger son, former Bobcat shooting guard out of Vegas, 6'6", wing. You've got Taj Ariza, Trevor Ariza's son, a smooth and athletic wing, small forward. Who else you got? You got Monty Williams' son, Elijah Williams, is also in this draft. And there's also a Jop in this draft from France. And I'm not sure if there's any relationship. Mustafa Jop. I'm not sure if there's any relationship to Desanya, another former Bobcat. So a lot of NBA pedigree in this draft. Okay, here are my two takes. That didn't count. That was three. So I've got actually two takes remaining on these trades. The first speaks to something you were talking about with the Luka deal and the value coming back. If you look at Luka, it got Anthony Davis and 1 first-round pick. Mm-hmm. De'Aaron Fox, if you really break it down, the Hornets' first-round pick that we owe to San Antonio win in that move, but that's a fake first-rounder.
It's really absolutely fake. Yep.
Yeah, because it's 2 second-rounders because the Hornets, that pick is not going to convey because the Hornets are bad. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to become 2 second-rounders next season. But even fake first-rounders matter. You know, you compile these things into a trade, and it's got to look good. Sometimes it's a vanity play. Like, I got to have my first rounders, even if they're fake first rounders. So that's a lesson for the Hornets and asset building, is that even fake first rounders matter.
Oh, yeah, and perception.
You seem to have a thought there.
No, well, even the perception of first rounders is always what I've argued too, right? Like, it's even if it's absolutely fake, you're totally right. That's not going to be a first round pick. If you do any homework on it whatsoever, you understand that. But even the perception of a first rounder, now you have to flip that. Like, if I'm Sacramento, just to have the allure of the first, I'm flipping it, because at some point the real value comes home to roost, and the real value is 2 seconds. But you're right, the perception across the NBA, everybody is going to say, hey, De'Aaron Fox landed 3 first, when in reality, no, it didn't. But you got to flip it.
So in reality, 2 firsts, and that's, I thought he would get more. And I think these teams are faced with these decisions where they don't want to pay these guys a lot of money because of the CBA, because it's going to mess up their cap, and it's going to mess up the ability for them to make other moves. And so that was, De'Aaron Fox was facing an extension. You've got Luka and the Mavs not wanting to pay Luka the supermax, and they're not getting the return that they thought they were going to get. And I think that we can put that into a future LaMelo deal as well, to expect, even though he's on a longer term deal, so maybe it's different, but to expect, I think the days of guys commanding 4 or 5 first rounders, it just might be over. This just is a different landscape than when Drew Holiday and Rudy Gobert and all these guys were going for massive pick hauls.
We talked about this with Bobby Marks. He joined us Friday ahead of the deadline. Maybe we can play some audio throughout the week, when we don't have so much stuff to catch up on. But he talked about how there's a few teams that have all the first rounders. So if those teams don't want to trade for anything substantial, then sorry, there's just not many first round picks to go around. If OKC is telling you we're good, we're going to sit on this treasure chest of picks and our treasure chest of talent, well, then now, okay, there's like 30% of the first rounders for the next 10 years. You also have the Spurs, who did actually have those first to give up. And what did they do? They gave up 3 of them, 2 real ones, to go get De'Aaron Fox. So now I guess Sacramento has a couple that they could work with. We'll see if they're done making deals. But this is the issue. Where do you get the first from? And there's only a handful of teams that have those types of assets to go after these superstars in the NBA.
Well, and that bodes well for the Charlotte Hornets. If they did potentially want to make a move this offseason, if there was an opportunity, they not only own all of their upcoming first rounders, I think, right? They
except
also,
for this one, except for the one,
right? Except for this one, right?
Yep.
But which they're just gonna use, I would imagine,
right.
Particularly if it lands in the top 3. If it lands outside the top 3, maybe there's an argument to move it. But if they wanted to, now they've got some extra picks and maybe there's less competition. So that's the final thing. All of this, I think, these trades, they look good for the Charlotte Hornets.
The one that would be interesting with the Dallas first round pick, like what's better for you, not having a 25-year-old superstar MVP level contender every season he's healthy in the league, not having him on the roster, or having him on the roster and then being hurt. Right, which is a morbid way to think about it, but that's how these teams tank. That's Golden State. It's all your stars getting hurt and then getting to the lottery. That's how it goes down. So that would be the only way to think of. I'd actually rather have Luka on the Dallas Mavericks. And now they have AD. They got a little more depth. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's maybe a conversation that the Hornets, if they do hold on to LaMelo, it's probably a conversation we're going to be having on this show in 2 or 3 years, when LaMelo is up for his next extension. The question is going to be, are the Hornets prepared to dole out that much money? Does LaMelo want to return? Are the Hornets prepared to do that for a player? We'll see if he can stay healthy the remainder of the way. But if he doesn't, I think we'll be having those same kind of conversations.
Yeah, and we'll see what they're winning, because the winning is going to take, it's going to be a big part of the equation when deciding what you want to do. Do you want to get to Mark stuff now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting weekend in Hornets basketball. Particularly the Denver game, hanging with Denver. Did not expect the Hornets to do that. They did get Mark back from injury management, but almost everyone else that has been out for a couple of games now has remained out. But I thought the Hornets showed a different level of intensity and physicality, particularly at the beginning of the game, and even when they got down double digits to Denver. They were able to just fight back, particularly in that fourth quarter. And in terms of Mark, I think the really smart thing that they've done with Mark Williams now a few times since he's returned. They didn't do it right when he returned, but since he's gotten his normal minutes, I think there's been a shift that Charles Lee has made to play Mark Williams at the beginning of second quarters against bench units. And I think in this game in particular, it gave him a level of confidence offensively that then leaked into the rest of the game. I actually thought this was a really good game for Mark Williams, particularly in the third quarter when he did go back up against the starters. I think he struggled against the starters to open the game, but then in the third quarter, I thought he was really, really good, and he was physical, particularly with Jokic. Jokic tried to pull him out, and luckily for the Hornets, Jokic was not on his three-point game, at least against Mark. Tried to draw Mark out, and then late in the game tried to post up. And the few attempts that Jokic made in the post up, I thought Mark did a great job of what I've wanted to see from him so many times against physical bigs, which Jokic is. Not an athletic big, but he's a physical big. He'll hit you. Mark went in and got in early and tried to steal the basketball and make Jokic think, make him move and, do some extra stuff. And I thought that's what Mark did really well, and then was able to get in and get some offensive rebounds and get into position, particularly Jokic tried to attack the level of the screen multiple times late in the game, and Mark just did a good job of all right, if you're going to do that, I'm going to roll. And Josh Green, Miles Bridges found Mark Williams. He didn't fumble the basketball. He just dropped it in there for easy 2 points multiple times. Thought it was a good Mark game.
Yeah. Wow, look at you. Look at this.
I'm surprised. See, you thought I was going to zig, and I zagged. Yeah, I gotcha.
What a pleasant surprise this is. You were misleading. You were teasing me in all the wrong ways.
Now do it again.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now do it in a championship game. Do it in the finals, Mark. That's when I'll really believe in you.
Do it in the first quarter. I mean,
what I hated was that last possession with him and Jokic. Mark staying down, staying so disciplined forever. I know it was like a 2-second play. It felt like a 10-second play. It felt like Jokic, fake, leave the floor. Damn it, Mark. Leave the floor. Fake,
no.
And then shot attempt. I'm still not sure how Nikola got that shot off because Mark times it perfectly. His arm is, 100% extended above his head. Nikola still gets it off because I guess Nikola's big too, but that's still a tough shot. And then Mark just, it's tough, right? The objective is as soon as you come back to the ground, boom, right? Now you got to hit Nikola. And it doesn't happen, and then he grabs the basketball and then he puts it back just because everything is happening so fast. But I did think tremendous defense from Mark on that shot initially. The ball just bounces right back to Jokic. It bounces right back to him. So, oh well. But you're right. I mean, double-digit rebounds. I thought it did. I thought the ball would. Mark could have gotten it. I'm trying to.
No, I don't think it was Mark's fault. I thought Mark did everything right on that possession. First of all, refs garbage in this game, particularly at the end. Also, thank you, refs. If the Hornets end up getting Cooper Flag, appreciate it. This was like the perfect Tankanista game, right? We can talk more about that. I've got some Miles thoughts, some KJ Simpson's thought that we can get to. But just last thing on that possession. So I thought Mark did everything right. I think the problem with that possession was that the ball did come out, and I thought it went right to Jokic, but Miles Bridges is standing right there looking at it. Like, jump up, try to smack the ball away. And then you had KJ and NSJ, so there's a size
I saw
thing.
NSJ on the left side. That's what I saw. I was like, what are you going to do? NSJ's crashing in. What do you do with him?
But that's a size thing. So that's where, like, the
100%,
Hornets,
yeah.
we've been talking a lot on this show. Hornets have got to get bigger. Like, props to NSJ for having a bounce back offensive game in this one. Defensively, he got murdered. That's a size thing. KJ, like, all right, let me say my KJ thoughts, but it's a size thing. But Miles is the one that on the backside of that, I thought, like, jump, do something, try to get in there, get a hand on something. Come on.
Yeah, that one was a tough one. The offensive rebound was tough. Let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Speed's everywhere!
Yeah, Sicko Satchel. Maybe if we have some time, we'll get to some of those questions. We'll get to Doug's other thoughts, KJ Simpson, rapid fire observations. That's still to come here on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season, it's heating up. There's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks. It's the best place for daily fantasy sports. And with over 10 million members and billions in award winnings, that's billions with a B, Prize Picks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. This week, you could be looking to board and select more for Jason Tatum on points, more for Luka Doncic on assists. The best part,
you might want to wait on that one.
Wait a little bit. Best part, Prize Picks keeps it simple. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and their fast, secure withdrawals mean you get paid quickly when you win. Plus, their Taco Tuesday promo gives you discounted player projections for even more value. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Yeah, just to talk a little bit more about this game, right? So they lose to the Nuggets. It was a close one. They battled back to get the lead, and then Jokic eventually did his thing on the possession we just talked about, grabs the offensive rebound off of his own miss, puts it in. Mark gets called for the foul. Nikola, I keep going with the first name. I don't know why. Jokic goes to the foul line. We're not first name basis. I don't know that, man. Jokic goes to the foul line. I know, I'm thinking of the lozenge. And then eventually the Nuggets win by 3. The other stat lines, Miles Bridges, 24 points. He led all scorers for the Hornets in this game, 10 of 23 from the field. Still not hitting that 3, but still attacking once he gets inside the 3-point mark. 1 of 5 from distance, 12 rebounds for Miles Bridges in this game too. And then coming off of the bench, Musa with 12. Seth Curry, 4 of 5 from the field, hit both of his threes and nailed 10 points as well.
Somebody's got to trade for Seth, right? I mean, the Hornets got to come away with a couple second rounders for Seth.
He's just like, we need some buckets. It deploy Seth when we need some buckets and we need some shot making. I'm with you.
I
man.
want the Hornets to just cycle Seth Curry. Like, you already trade him for a second rounder, and then he gets released at the end of the season for whatever team was contending, and then just bring him back and just rinse and repeat. That's what
it's like Reggie Jackson if he were to put on a Hornets uniform every once in a while. We'll just have Seth Curry be that guy for us. What were your observations outside of Mark Williams in this game, Doug?
Man, I hope that KJ can shoot. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, there's so much to his game that I love. His ability to drive, his effort that he gives on the defensive end of the floor, which makes up a little bit for his lack of size. I thought his passing vision was really good in that game against the Nuggets. I thought he had some great effort plays against the Clippers. We haven't talked a ton about that game. The Hornets lose that one, but didn't get blown out in that one either. 112-104 final. And some great defensive effort by the Hornets in that game. There was not even the notion of a blowout. And KJ Simpson was a part of that. But boy, he's got to learn how to shoot. You know what I'm saying? He had a moment where he could have. I mean, the Hornets were up 4 in that Nuggets game with under a minute to go. KJ got a wide open 3 above the break, missed that. Should have been a call on Miles Bridges when he was driving. That he should have been at the foul line. I thought that was a complete garbage call. Got knocked off his line. They tried to bait Charles Lee at the end to comment on that play, and he just went right to the line where he wasn't going to give up any cash, but he definitely was displeased with that call as well. I hope Miles Bridges got a good ice bath because, boy, he was driving all night long. The three-point shot was not falling. Some questionable shot decisions for him at the end of the game. The step back three, anytime he takes a step back three, if he can get his feet set or he's like leaning forward a little bit on the shot, I'm okay with it. If he steps back and takes a three, it's almost like automatically not even going to be a miss. It's going to be like a bad miss, and he had a couple of those at the end of this game. But boy, I mean, he was driving over and over again and converting for the most part. So that was nice to see. And then the final thing, a couple of injuries in the Clippers game. It was Josh Okogie going down, and he was having an amazing game at the time and an amazing stretch of games. He goes down with, a hamstring injury, reevaluated in 3 weeks. So disappointing. Anytime, we just can't have nice things. Anytime a player, whether it be a role player or a star, gets going, they're going to miss some time. So that's unfortunate and probably affects the Hornets' ability to move Okogie at the trade deadline, which some people were speculating on. And then in the Nuggets game, it was Vasa Micic turning his ankle, didn't step on a foot or anything, just tried to make a move and turned his left ankle. But I think, if I read the injury report right, he's not out for this game. I think he's just questionable. So I don't know that was a bad ankle turn.
Yeah, I'll look it up here on Hornets PR, the land of bad news. Every time I go to that Twitter account, it usually means somebody's hurt, and it means that he's going to be reevaluated in a week, 2 weeks, or in this case, 3 weeks worth of time. Yeah, Micic is questionable with left ankle soreness. And so LaMelo, Trey Mann, Cody Martin, Brandon Miller, Okogie, Grant Williams, they're all out. So those are the guys not playing tonight against Washington.
We haven't said Diabate, or you may have said Diabate's name, but I haven't said it. I thought particularly
just
against
box score. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, particularly against the Clippers. I mean, he had 14 rebounds. 7 of those were defensive. 7 of those were offensive rebounds. No mark for that Clippers game. So he was Taj gets the start and Musa comes off the bench. And he just, if he just works on his shot, man, again, I've really got the same critique for multiple players that the Hornets are dancing around, either picked them up, for a two-way spot or KJ Simpson in the second round. A lot of these guys, it's like, man, if they just get a shot together, now we're talking, but we're not talking until then.
Well, Doug, I have a Sicko Satchel question. Walker Mail from the 132nd Briante Weber division has a question, okay?
I think he was 11. I've been doing the numbers based on the number of the jersey. I think that Briante Weber was 11.
I loved Briante Weber. I had an irrational love for Briante Weber. My question is, because here's what I think about Musa. Doug, Musa's not going to be able to shoot, man. Like, it's just, I do not foresee a world in whatever world you want to speak of. I love Musa. Let the moose loose, baby. I'm here for it. There's not going to be a world where he can shoot. So my question for you is, how do you feel about Musa without the ability to shoot? Because I think, I might even damn near just say it's going to be 100% certainty. That's just not his game. Not skilled enough, right? Like he's never going to develop that shot. Mark is skilled enough. I actually think Mark can develop a three, and we're just going to have to see it to believe it, but he's got the touch. Musa,
I don't know, man. If you watch that Nuggets game, I mean, the touch wasn't going from the floater, and then he tried to step, because Jokic was playing drop against him a lot, and he tried to step up and take a mid-range shot, and it looked ugly. If it's, maybe it's there.
We've seen him take mid-range jumpers. We see the free throw percentage as a decent enough indicator. I'm with you. Like, Musa's not, though. So with Musa never being able to develop a shot, what's your opinion on him? Like, is it somebody that you would like to keep coming off of the bench? And even if you convert his two-way to a big boy contract, knowing what his role is going to be, is that good enough for you?
Yeah, a lot of people are comparing him to Dennis Rodman with his ability to just impact a game with his energy and his rebounding. And I love that. But like Dennis Rodman in today's game, what would that work? What would that look like? I'm not certain that he would be as valued as he was when he was playing. Okay, if the Hornets were to go out and surround some of these like you can have one or two guys that can't shoot if they can give you monster numbers everywhere else. Diabate's capable of that, but he's got to be playing power forward. He can't be your center for like long stretches, I don't think. Because again, I'm talking competitive basketball. I'm not talking about playing the Clippers on January 31st in the middle of a kind of lost season. I'm talking about what does this look like if you actually want to be competitive both in the regular season and the postseason. You better have like 4 guys that are dead eye if you're going to play a guy like Musa. That's all I'm saying.
No, and I hear you. I just don't think that's a realistic scenario. So with Musa, I think the case is right. Like in competitive basketball spaces, they're in a playoff series. Let's just put them in the first round before we look any further than that. How do you deploy Musa? I think you are right. I think you have a team that can stretch the floor where you might have size elsewhere, and then you just need somebody to come in and do dirty work. And I think that's valuable. Like I value that a lot, Musa coming off of the bench, but he's certainly limited, right? Even Charles Lee told you when he was trying to be nice, he said, I love Musa, but he's also 6'7", 6'8". There are only so many things that you can do with that in an NBA competition, and whether it's regular season or playoffs. Whereas, like if we're trying to make this jump shot thing work for someone, even if you don't see it as much, it's clearly much more there with Mark by leaps and bounds than it is with Musa. So fingers crossed, man. That'd be great. But hey, you gave a good take for Mark a little while ago. Let's just keep it there. And then we can move on. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcasts, and that includes YouTube. Go check out Doug's Locked On NBA episode today. It should be a doozy. Matt Moore, Hayes, I'm excited for it. Also, make sure you're reading everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can also text him there. The subtext information is there on everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
Oh, Weber was 0.
Not in my heart.